We live in an era that offers more individual liberty than any period before it. We decide where we want to live, what career to pursue, and who we choose to marry. Yet running parallel to this explosion of personal freedom, we are experiencing an epidemic of profound isolation. In 1914, Japanese author Natsume Sōseki published a serialized novel that captured the onset of this exact crisis. The book is called Kokoro. The word itself is notoriously difficult to translate into English. It means heart, but it also means feeling or the heart of things. The story follows a naive university student living in Tokyo. The city around him is undergoing a rapid modernization, replacing traditional collective values with Western individualism. During a summer vacation, this student becomes intensely fascinated by an older, wealthy gentleman he meets by the ocean. To preserve the man's anonymity, the student simply refers to him as sensei. What follows is a narrative that diagnoses a psychological disease born directly from the clash between old communal duties and the rise of the modern self. Sensei is a walking contradiction. He is highly educated, financially secure, and in good health, but he does absolutely nothing with his life, spending his days as a misanthropic recluse. He also guards a strict routine of secrecy. Every month, Sensei makes a solitary pilgrimage to a grave in Tokyo. He refuses to tell the student whose grave it is, and he keeps the identity hidden even from his own wife, Ojo-san. Curious, slightly ominous, when the young student presses for a closer friendship, Sensei offers a chilling response. He warns the boy that drawing close to him now will only guarantee disgust and disdain later. A person does not arrive at this level of isolation by accident. Something buried deep in Sensei's past broke his trust in humanity so completely that he chose to exile himself from society. The narrative shifts when the student leaves the expanse of Tokyo. His father has fallen critically ill, pulling the young man back to his rural hometown and the traditional family structures he thought he had left behind. While his father's health deteriorates, the entire country experiences a parallel decline. Emperor Meiji falls ill and dies. His passing marks the definitive end of the era that oversaw Japan's frantic push into the modern world. Shortly after the funeral, General Nogi Marisuke, a revered military hero, commits ritual suicide to follow his emperor into death. This act, known as junshi, is a deeply traditional, highly public demonstration of absolute loyalty to a superior. In the wake of these national shocks, the student receives a thick, registered letter from Sensei. Inside is a detailed confession of Sensei's past, accompanied by a staggering admission. By the time the student reads this, Sensei will already be dead. Urgent tone, the student abandons his dying father's bedside, boards the first train back to Tokyo, and tears open the manuscript to finally understand the older man's trauma. Sitting on that train, the student is caught between two collapsing realities. Behind him is the dying, traditional world of his father, and ahead of him is the isolating, modern vacuum Sensei occupies. Sensei's testament begins in his youth. After his parents died, his trusted uncle cheated him out of his family inheritance. The betrayal stripped Sensei of his faith in other people and left him intensely guarded. Seeking to rebuild his life in Tokyo, Sensei moved into a boarding house. Hoping to pull himself out of a dark mental space, he convinced his childhood friend, a strict, religiously devoted ascetic known only as Kei, to move in with him. But the arrangement created a volatile dynamic. Both Sensei and Kei developed intense feelings for Oja-san, the landlady's daughter. We see vectors of attraction from both men toward her, but a heavy barrier on Kei represents his rigid religious principles. When Kei confesses his feelings, Sensei panics. Weaponizing Kei's ideals, Sensei shames Kei for straying from his path, effectively neutralizing his friend. With Kei immobilized by shame, Sensei sneaks behind his back and asks the landlady for Oja-san's hand in marriage. She accepts. Kei learns of the engagement not from Sensei, but from the landlady. Days later, he quietly takes his own life. He leaves behind a suicide note that deliberately avoids laying any blame on his friend. The absence of blame in the note shatters Sensei. He realizes that when his own desires were threatened, he behaved exactly like his treacherous uncle. Given the right temptation, ego can turn anyone into a monster. To understand Sensei's fate, we can look at this web diagram comparing his death to General Nogi's. Nogi's suicide was a public, futile act. The central node, representing Nogi, is held in place by dozens of rigid, outward-facing lines. These are the societal frameworks of duty, honor, and absolute loyalty to the emperor. Sensei's suicide operates entirely differently. It is an intensely private decision driven by internal guilt. When we remove the old structures, the outward connecting lines snap. The central node is left completely isolated in a void, collapsing inward on itself under the weight of its own alienation. Sensei chooses to die because he feels like an anachronism. He cannot survive in a modern landscape that has stripped away the safety of traditional structures, leaving only unchecked egoism in its place. Sensei leaves the student with one final offering, the manuscript itself. He describes the act of writing the letter as cutting open his own heart, hoping that his experiences might lodge themselves in the young man's chest and live on. His story maps a much larger societal shift. Humanity dismantled the old, restrictive frameworks of collective identity and duty, trading them for the promise of independence and the freedom of the self. But without those communal frameworks to guide us, we are forced to navigate our desires, our guilt, and our failures entirely alone. Sōseki's novel leaves us with a haunting realization: the inescapable price we pay for our modern freedom is loneliness.